Good evening, Team SCCA. Mike Cobb, President and CEO of the SCCA here, and I want to welcome each of you to our 2024 Hall of Fame Award Show. We're excited to be with you tonight, and we're honored to bring you this celebration featuring your Sports Car Club of America 2024 Hall of Fame inductees, the 2024 Member of Excellence, and the 2024 Woolf Barnato Award winner. Tonight, we will recognize and celebrate some of our finest, all of which have made incredible contributions to this great organization, the broader world of motorsports, and who have a combined 200 plus years of SCCA membership. So round up your friends and family, get the popcorn and your favorite beverage ready, and let's get this multimedia extravaganza started. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the SCCA 2024 Hall of Fame Award Show. Let's roll!
Anatoly Arutinov is truly a Renaissance man. His Sports Car Club of America exploits began when he purchased a Porsche Carrera Speedster GS in 1958, and soon after a $25 SCCA membership. In what can only be described as a bargain, Anatoly, or Toly, watched the lifetime membership price increase to $120 and purchased the membership before it could go up again. To date, that works out to $1.85 per year, and his experience has been well worth that cost. As a driver, Toly began lining up on SCCA grids in the 1960s, and through the years competed in cannonball runs, Pikes Peak hill climbs, and multiple times in Italy's legendary Targa Florio. His crowning achievement as a driver came during the 1981 SCCA National Championship runoffs when he started 11th in the H production race, climbed to the lead by lap 6, and held on for the final 12 laps to win the championship and the coveted President's Cup. His most well-known contribution to the club and to road racing as a whole is as a favorite son of mid-states drivers. Armed mostly with a bulldozer and his racing knowledge, Arutinov laid out and built the Hallett Motor Racing Circuit near Tulsa, Oklahoma. The resulting 1.8-mile, 11-turn track can be run in either direction to this day and is enjoyed by driving schools for its series of unique corners. Though mostly a club racing track, Hallett hosted IMSA, Trans Am, and the final ever Can-Am race in 1986. Off the track, Arutinov's automotive collection is revered amongst car lovers for its uniqueness, stepping off the traditional beaten path for cars that he personally finds interesting. Just like the man steeped in his own interesting adventures, those cars are often one of a kind. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Toly Arutinov to the SCCA Hall of Fame.
Hello, everybody. I'm set up like this because I want to say that no matter how goofy I might act, nothing can diminish in any way the wonderful honor you bestowed upon me by inducting me into the Sports Car Club of America Hall of Fame. It's been several days since I've been told, but I sort of thought I better have a cheat sheet to thank you and tell you various things in this little talk about how joyful it's made me feel. Now, as a charismatic Christian, I have to say the joy of the Lord is my strength, but going on purely earthly terms, I have never been more delighted, and I cannot thank you enough. I got here by doing things that I like to do with cars. And when I look at all the other people in the Hall of Fame, I think, my gosh, they did so much more than I did. And I know that we all did these things because we like cars, and various things about cars. But again, some people have just put in tons and tons of work. And I wasted a lot of time, had a lot of fun with cars, and you esteem me so highly as to give me this wonderful award. I got here, I was a hot rodder originally, because as a teenager I'd go pick up a road and track, and it would have some yellow and black Fiat coupe with a top speed measured two ways of 89.5 miles an hour. And I'd say to myself, I got a supercharged Lincoln convertible that tears the tread off the tires, and 125 miles an hour at 100 degrees across the straight roads of Oklahoma, probably because I was putting in the factory recommended tire pressures of 24 pounds. Went to Europe with my brother-in-law and sister and stumbled upon the last running of the Mille Miglia. Came up to a road, it was closed. Porque aquí so, and the carabinieri said, Mille Miglia. The car went by. I thought, wow, this is great. I laid in a ditch. Said, can I photo here with movies? You can do anything you want, it's Italy. I have a picture of Portago, 10 miles before he was killed, in a long, sweeping right-hand bend. Anyway, I decided then that sports cars were the way to go compared to drag racing, because sports cars, at least in this race, it was 4,000 times as long as a drag race. You could take somebody with you and the food was better. So I came back, went to sports cars, picked a Porsche, kind of because a light young man, the salesman, opened the door of a Speedster, sat on the door, swung back and forth with his full weight on the door, got off, shut the door with one finger. I said, that's quality. They said, oh, we also have a very hot one for sale called a Carrera. I said, okay, I'll take one of those. So the car came in and I wrote the check and I'm picking up the papers and the dealer slides the checkbook back toward me and says, write another check for $25. And always happy to follow orders. I said, okay, what's this for? And he said, you're joining the Sports Car Club of America. And that's how all this wonderful stuff started. Again, it's been said a million times. I can't thank you enough for this wonderful award and this wonderful honor. And I hope you have not only a great, blessed, wonderful 2024, but the rest of your lives. And so once again, whoever got me this thing, thank you very much. I'm in your debt forever, and I certainly enjoy it. Thanks again.
For many Sports Car Club of America racing drivers, Bruce Foss is literally where the rubber meets the road. Since 1984, when he initiated the development of Hoosier Racing Tire sports car program, Foss has been an unwavering supporter of the SCCA. On behalf of Hoosier, he has built both personal relationships with competitors across the United States and important business relationships with the SCCA itself. Through Bruce, both road racing and autocross tire development has grown to meet the demands of customer programs on a multitude of cars. He has managed the funding of hundreds of thousands of dollars in contingency awards that have extended the careers of many amateur racers. That, in turn, has boosted the health of the SCCA programs and SCCA regions. That relationship has extended to SCCA's Hoosier Racing Tire Super Tour, the top level of amateur racing in North America. The respect that the motorsports industry has for Foss extends beyond his role at his job. Foss is on the Road Racing Driver Club's Mark Donohue Award Selection Committee, the award given to the competitor at the runoffs that has exhibited the most outstanding personal spirit and driving performance of the weekend. He's also the membership chairman for the RRDC, yet another way he gives back to the sport. Though Bruce is known to many, his work behind the scenes has benefited SCCA members for decades, including those who may choose to run on another brand of tire. Bruce also helped support the dream of a young announcer to move from autocross to road racing by giving him a tire sponsorship and creating a friendship that has endured ever since. So it is with a special joy that I utter the following words. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Bruce Foss to the SCCA Hall of Fame.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here this evening to accept my induction into the SCCA Hall of Fame, class of 2024. First of all, I'm extremely honored and humbled to receive this recognition, as there's been many others that have been inducted that I'm in pretty famous company, and it's very humbling. It's been a long and fruitful career for me at Hoosier Tire, and along with our relationship with the SCCA. My journey at Hoosier started in November of '84. I went there to start a sports car tire program, as they were only doing circle track tires at the time. the vice president of Hoosier then, Dennis Sherman, and I put the program together and started off in '84 and have enjoyed a long and fruitful experience with sports car racing. The second day I was at Hoosier, got a call from a fellow named Bruce Wenzel, and he proceeded to inform me that he just won the 1984 Solo 2 BSP National Championship on Hoosier tires. And I asked him, I said, that's great. I said, how many cars were in your class? He said, 53. I said, were you the only one on Hoosier tires? And he said, no, we were all on Hoosier tires. And I said, there must be a market here. So that kind of prompted us to pursue tire supply for the Solo 2 competition. And we released a product called an autocrosser in '85. We expanded the tire size offerings, and by 1988, we won all 10 street prepared classes at the Solo 2 Nationals. So that was pretty cool. We also started, we were in club racing in 1985. Less than a year after I started, we were able to capture our first SCCA National Championship at Road Atlanta, the runoffs, with Paul Decker and a D Sports Racer. And that was pretty rewarding. And we've gone on to win hundreds of SCCA National Championships since then, and currently enjoy about 80% of the market share for tires and SCCA club racing. So we also ventured into some IMSA racing in the Camel Ice division, and in 1987 we won the 24 Hours of Daytona in the Camel Ice division, and also won a race at Monterey that year. So that was pretty successful. But needless to say, I could go on and on about accomplishments, but the biggest accomplishment and the biggest reward for me has been the relationships that I've been fortunate to develop over the years, as a lot of the business relationships turn into personal relationships. And I'm fortunate to amass quite a group of friends and associates through my involvement in sports car racing. In 2012, I got a phone call from Bobby Rahal, and had I not known his voice, I would have thought somebody was pranking me, but he proceeded to tell me that I'd been voted into the Road Racing Drivers Club. So that was another milestone, unexpected. So now here we are in the SCCA Hall of Fame. I can't thank everyone enough for their recognition. To me, over all these years, it's been a execution of my passion for sports car racing, and I'm honored and humbled to be recognized in this fashion. So I want to wish everybody a prosperous and successful 2024, and hope to see you at the track soon.
As a motorsports professional, Victoria, or Vicki O'Connor, has just about done it all, but her crowning accomplishment is the long-standing Formula Atlantic Pro Series that launched the career of a number of now legendary drivers. O'Connor was introduced to the Sports Car Club of America in the 1960s when her husband Bill raced in Formula B. Her professional motorsports career began when she was hired by fellow SCCA Hall of Famer Carl Haas as his personal secretary. Working for Haas, O'Connor was selected to head up the Sports 2000 Pro Series, which she did with great success. That led to her selection by SCCA Pro Racing in 1985 to begin the East Coast Atlantic Race Series to complement the already launched West Coast Championship. 4 years later, O'Connor had partnered with Toyota as a title sponsor and engine supplier, merging the two series into one national championship, thus beginning the Toyota Atlantic Championship under O'Connor's watchful eye. The series took another step forward in 1991 when Jerry Forsyth pulled O'Connor, her staff, and the Toyota Atlantic Championship under the CART umbrella to become a part of some of the largest open-wheel motorsports events in the world. Scott Goodyear, Calvin Fish, Patrick Carpentier, Buddy Rice, and A.J. Allmendinger are just a few of the championship-winning drivers who succeeded in a series that was under O'Connor's guidance. And it wasn't just drivers who benefited from her largesse. She was also instrumental in helping at least one eager young announcer achieve his dreams by hiring him to announce both the series events and the series awards banquets and press conferences. And that announcer can say without reservation, she was a wonderful boss. And she did it all as a woman in a time when that was rarely done. She was never aware that being a woman could be a limiting factor in her success. Ignorance is bliss, she said, though her knowledge was vast. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with a special place in my heart that I say, please welcome Vicki O'Connor to the SCCA Hall of Fame.
I was both surprised and a bit overwhelmed to be inducted into the SCCA Hall of Fame. When I joined SCCA many years ago, I began as a registrar for Chicago region, and I really enjoyed meeting the drivers and crew members as they signed waivers for each race. At that time, we didn't have annual credentials. From there, I was more or less talked into starting the Pro 2000 series by several drivers who owned Sports 2000 cars. All 4 races in the series were run at Road America, and we had grids of 50-plus cars. Well, I remember thinking that this was fairly easy. But then the series traveled to more tracks, and we had competition from other series, and I needed staff, money, etc., etc. And, of course, the Atlantic Championship Series came along and needed to be completely rebuilt. Not an easy task, but Atlantic has always been my favorite series. At the time, it was set up East Coast and West Coast, but with Toyota now as a series sponsor, thanks to the results of a cold call from my kitchen table, it was decided it should be one national series. And I would head it up on behalf of Toyota and our sanctioning body, SCCA. And not only national as a series, but also ran in Canada with sponsorship from Imperial Tobacco. It was a continued build over many years and lots of success. And it's still going on today. I'd like to thank SCCA for asking me to be part of their Hall of Fame. I'm honored, and I hope your continued success grows as well. Thank you.
Terry Osmond has worked to make the Sports Car Club of America better through leadership roles at the regional, divisional, national, and even professional levels. Osmond joined the Land O'Lakes region in 1980 and over the years served in flagging and communications, registration, race chairman, timing and scoring as a steward, and the CENDIV scheduling representative. She served there as treasurer and on the National Convention Committee. A short time later, she moved to the Chicago area and transferred her membership to the Chicago region, but her work didn't slow down. She spent 2 years there as the regional executive, and her overall knowledge of the club, especially the road racing department, led to her appointment as the national office's head of club racing. During her time at the national office, where she grew to become the vice president of club racing, Osmond took her knowledge of region activities and provided a model for other regions to follow. She created position descriptions for volunteers and workers and secured a grant to fund training and track safety reviews. She led the process to streamline event sanctioning, insurance, program board support, and event staffing. While at the helm, the national office began a new customer service initiative to encourage a more member-friendly attitude across events. She managed the national championship runoffs efforts at 5 different racetracks, coordinating the effort to move from a static event to a rotational model. She oversaw the rollout of the U.S. Majors Tour as the program began to highlight premier events across the country and streamlined the competition license program, including the launch of the alternate driver school. Osment was awarded the John McGill Award to a standing ovation at the 2016 National Convention for significant contributions to the club racing program. As both a volunteer and a staff member, Osment's first question when addressing an issue for a member was, quote, "What is the right thing to do?" unquote. In this case, the right thing to do is surely to bestow her with this honor. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Terry Osment to the SCCA Hall of Fame.
Hi, everyone. I was very surprised to get the call that I was being inducted into the SCCA Hall of Fame, and I'm both humbled and grateful for the opportunity to do that and join the incredible list of people that have been recognized with that honor in the past. SCCA has been a very important part of my life for over 40 years, which is kind of shocking when I realize how long that has been, since I still tend to think I'm 20 most days. But in any event, it's giving me the opportunity to take a look back over that time and really think about the various things that have happened. And don't panic, I'm not going to cover all of them in this little talk here, but I did want to cover a few things that were important to me. My racing career with SCCA actually started on Memorial Weekend in 1980 at Brainerd International Raceway. I was working for AT&T in sales and marketing at the time, and one of my coworkers is someone that many of you may remember, Gwen Gordon. Well, Gwen spent a lot of our break time actually telling me how much fun she was having doing races at Road America, Brainerd, other places, and she talked me into going with her to Brainerd that weekend to see what it was all about. I did. I ended up camping in a tent at the track, being Minnesota in May. It was cold and rainy all weekend. And when I left the event on Monday, I knew I was hooked. Being that close to the racing action, having a chance to hear all these stories that were brought up at the socials at the end of the day, many of which, by the way, I find out later, actually had some basis in truth. And also experiencing Bobby McGee's campfire egg coffee every morning made me realize I'd found my new passion and my new hobby. I spent the next couple of years traveling a number of places. When you like racing and you live in Minnesota, travel will be involved. And I was very fortunate to be able to do that with some fun and very knowledgeable people. People like Gwen, Kathy Malik, Dale Sand, and a number of others. I also had an opportunity to start working other specialties and found that I really enjoyed the race chair specialty in particular. At the runoffs at Road Atlanta I think it was 1982, Costa Dunius, who was then the VP of Club Racing, asked if I would get more involved in the administrative side of racing. Specifically, he wanted me to help with my region in conducting the National Convention in 1983. Back in those days, it was the regions who put on the conventions, not the national staff. I agreed to do that and thus started my quest to learning everything I could about what it takes to put on an SCCA event and what makes them successful. The next several years, I started doing more events as race chairman and actually moved into the role actually of scheduling rep. I had big shoes to fill following Dee Duncan and Bev Heilacher in that role. But it was when I was actually able to start working with racetrack personnel all over the division, and the combination of working with them and region leaders to develop the best schedules we could for the division gave me some skills that came in very handy later on in my SCCA career. I will note too, at that time, Central Division was still a single division. It was before CENDEV split into Great Lakes and CENDEV, so it was really quite fun. For the next probably 20 years, my day job stayed working in sales and marketing for AT&T, and a lot of what I learned and the training I had exposure to at AT&T carried over into the SCCA world. So doing both things seemed to be very compatible to me at the time. My husband, Ed, I met through racing as well, and at the time, Ed was doing a lot of street races around the country. He was working for George Cousins, and they were building the street courses. I was lucky enough to be able to go to the events just before they did the final street shutdown and observe what was going on. It was through that time that I learned a lot about street racing events and what was required for them. I learned what a leading edge meant and the impact of that. I learned what the importance was in welding your manhole covers, some of which is still being learned today. And overall, it was just an incredible experience. And I also was not totally surprised, but found out that the majority of those events were staffed with SCCA people. So there continued to be kind of a trend going on from that perspective. Continuing my SCCA involvement, my friend Bev Heilecher and I decided that we wanted to get into the stewards program. And I had two things going against me. One, I had never raced competitively. And secondly, I wasn't a guy. And at the time we were looking to do this, I think Nanda Van Gelden was the only female steward in Central Division. We certainly had Sue Rothell as a role model to look up to, but those two things against someone didn't get a whole lot of people into the program. We persevered and were very lucky because they decided to take a chance on us and we got into the program. We had a number of good mentors in the program, and my husband had been a steward for quite a while at that point, and those of you that know Ed know that he didn't really give us an easy button to push to gain the stewarding knowledge and experience that was necessary. We spent a lot of time doing what I call the what if trips to and from events, where we would have discussions on what are you going to do if this happens and what are you going to do if that doesn't work. And then on the way back, we would have those discussions on what would you have done differently if you could have. All of that contributed to some very good experience, and you combine that with what we got from other mentors, and hopefully it kind of set the stage for some good officiating and for some situations where we were able to treat the drivers with respect and fairness, and I'm very grateful for that experience as well. Over the years, I was also lucky enough to serve on two boards, one Land O'Lakes region where I started, and also on Chicago region. And the latter, I actually served as RE for a couple of years, and it was during my tenure there that I was also the chief steward of the June Sprints. Back in those days, the June Sprints fielded over 600 cars, and so it was quite an undertaking, and it's only because of the support of the region and all the workers that we were able to conduct an event that big over a 3-day weekend. So again, contributing to basically the experience set that I had. In 2004, I decided to retire from AT&T and took a job on staff in club racing in Topeka. I was very fortunate because I had a wonderful staff at that point. Brian Cohn, Jeremy Tennis, John Bauer, Wendy McCormick, Janet Farwell, later Deanna Flanagan. These were very knowledgeable and committed people, and it was a great pleasure to be able to work with them. I learned something very important during my time in Topeka, and that is that I didn't always have the best and brightest ideas, but what was important was that I recognize a good idea when I saw it and do whatever I could to make that idea come to fruition, also acknowledging whoever's idea it had been. I was very lucky in that Brian Cohen and later Butch Cummer were two of the most creative people I ever worked with, even though they may have been a bit ahead of their time with some of the ideas. Everyone was committed to moving the program forward, and that was a very wonderful experience. One of the things that I had heard about actually over time was the Give 'em the Pickle program that the Farrell companies worked with the Farrell ice cream parlors. And as I researched that situation, I realized there was a very nice fit for that in SCCA. Give 'em the pickle means nothing more than if somebody wants extra pickles with their hamburger and you can give it to them, you have a responsibility to do that. And I think that very much summarizes customer service and what it should be all about. Because of that, it kind of morphed into a multi-year program in customer service with SCCA, one that I still hear comments about when I travel, which is very gratifying. One of the things that I think I am most proud of, though, in my tenure at Topeka was in 2014, which I believe was the 50th anniversary of the runoffs at Road America. We were able, we were able to have a photo taken of the entire field on the main straight at Road America. That year, the runoffs field was over 700 cars, and we lined up all the open wheel cars on the main straight, and we put the closed wheel cars in the pit lane right behind them. Thanks to the help of Ed and the racetrack personnel and race control and a number of very qualified and capable grid and pit workers, we were able to make that happen. I also appreciate Paul Fanner for arranging the helicopter that enabled us to get the photo. And at that time, Miatas were really coming into their own as a class with SCCA, and the Mazda folks really wanted a picture of just the Miatas at the event. So we put them at the back of the closed wheel field, and when we were done with our photos, we moved the rest of the classes off out the pit lane, and we moved up the Miatas to the start-finish area, and Mazda was able to get their photo. I think what's relevant to me about all of that too is that for the first time in a while, I really did have a good sense of the importance of manufacturers and sponsors in our racing world. So that was just an incredible, fun thing to have done. It seemed, I think it was one of the first ever done, and it's been done a number of times by us and other organizations. But we really broke some new ground on that one, and I'm very proud of that effort. During my time in Topeka, I worked for 4 different presidents. I think there were 5 different CRB chairmen, dozens of specialty administrators, and more board members than I can count, every one of which brought something unique to the organization that the organization benefited from, and I certainly learned from all of them. But after 10 years in Topeka, I decided it was time for something new. I needed to learn something new. Ed and I made the decision to move to Florida, and shortly after that, I was offered a position with Tony Perella with what was then SVRA, helped actually by some input from former board members Jerry Winarka and Alex Miller. I started working for Tony, and interestingly enough, the vintage world, I found vintage drivers are every bit as competitive as non-vintage drivers. They just have a little different appreciation for the value of the vehicles they're racing, and sportsmanship and camaraderie have a bit more importance because of the value of those cars. Being SVRA, basically they did events. It started out as a regional organization, and Tony grew that to a national organization, which gave me an opportunity to start working with track personnel and helping put on events coast to coast, which was also a lot of fun. And to no one's surprise, the workers at most of these events were primarily SCCA workers. So it was like old home week everywhere I went. As Tony grew the corporation into Perella Motorsports Holdings and added Trans Am to the company, I was given the opportunity to go to work for John Claggett as the president of Trans Am and the Trans Am staff. Again, it was a bit like old home week because I was able to reconnect with SCCA members Aaron Colwell, Kelly Huxtable, Tim Turner, Bart Carlavaro, Gori Ensing, a few of those folks that were on Trans Am staff at the time, which was really a treat for me. Interestingly enough, in the pro world, and I'd never worked in a pro series before, so my learning curve was pretty steep. But there is so much riding on the situation for the drivers and the teams in pro racing that it becomes even more important that you get it right, that the rules package is correct, that your officiating is fair and comprehensive, that you're putting on an event that sets the stage for success, all of that. I hope to continue those efforts as we go into 2024. But I appreciate those. If you stuck with me this long, I will summarize things here and kind of bring things full circle. What have I learned over this time, and what does SCCA mean to me? For me, SCCA has always been about the people. No one would ever accuse me of being a solid tech person or even necessarily knowing that much about cars. What's always been important to me was the ability to put on an event anywhere, anytime that can be a success and enjoyable for the people that are putting it on and those that are racing at it. That was always kind of my focus with the organization. I owe SCCA an incredible debt of gratitude for 40 years of fun, excitement, great learning experiences, the opportunity to meet my husband and to make lifelong friends all across the country. I also learned that everyone in this sport, and in SCCA in particular, is interested in success. And the drivers want to win every weekend. They want to at least improve their performance, if not win. Their crews want to give the drivers the best prepped cars they can manage. The officials really do want to set a fair and comprehensive environment for officiating. And the workers all want to be the best in their specialty and provide the drivers with the most safe, effective environment for that. In this area, I think we're all alike. I also believe that SCCA has the most talented, knowledgeable, and committed members of any organization in motorsports, and I believe that needs to be respected and appreciated. I very much am proud of being an SCCA member for this amount of time, and I thank you for the honor of inducting me in the SCCA Hall of Fame. Thank you.
Fred G. Wacker Jr. was instrumental in solidifying the Sports Car Club of America as the racing organization that we know today. An early member of the SCCA, Wacker was co-founder of SCCA Chicago region and served as regional executive for 3 terms from 1948 through 1950. And as we now know, that was a transformative period in road racing as the sport moved away from high-risk street races and onto permanent road courses. Fred was actually involved in one such incident on the streets of Watkins Glen, an accident that prompted him to place more emphasis on safety and permanent facilities. Along with fellow SCCA Hall of Famer Jim Kimberly, Wacker helped develop the Elkhart Lake street races and eventually the land that would become Road America. He also was instrumental in meeting with another SCCA Hall of Famer, General Curtis LeMay, to convince the General to allow SCCA to use air bases for racing activities. The air base races served their purpose well, establishing road racing, while a host of permanent racing venues were being built. Wacker served as the national SCCA president in 1952 and 53, but he had plenty of success on the track as well. In addition to his SCCA driver duties, Wacker made 3 Formula One starts as a driver. He also drove with Briggs Cunningham and Phil Hill in 2 starts at the 24 Hours of Le Mans and finished second in his class at Sebring in the inaugural race before it was a 12-hour enduro. Chicago Region's Driver of the Year award is still named for Fred Wacker, who passed away in 1998, just weeks shy of his 80th birthday. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Fred Wacker Jr. to the SCCA Hall of Fame. Accepting on his behalf is his son, Fred Wacker III.
Hello, my name is Fred Wacker III, and on behalf of the Wacker family, we'd like to thank you ever so much for this wonderful honor for our dad to join the SCCA Hall of Fame. He loved motorsports and participated in SCC events in the late 1940s and early 1950s, as well as racing at Le Mans and in Europe in Formula One and Formula Two. The Sports Car Club of America was near and dear to his heart, and I know he's looking down with pride and appreciation for this wonderful recognition. We'd like to thank the SCCA leaders and congratulate all the other honorees today for this great event. All the best.
Welcome, Team SCCA. It's my honor to introduce you today to the SCCA 2023 Member of Excellence Award winner. The Member of Excellence Award, selected by the SCCA Board of Directors, is presented to the volunteer who shows the greatest commitment to SCCA motorsports activities. The recipient can be involved in any SCCA program as a driver, participant, or volunteer and should personify the SCCA volunteer who gives of his or her time and effort to helping organize, work a specialty, or volunteer any volunteer role necessary to support SCCA programs in motorsports. To be selected, the member must have rendered long-term service working SCCA events or activities for a 5-year period minimum. The recipient cannot be a paid SCCA staff member, a current board of directors member, or any member who is a paid consultant to the SCCA. This year's winner joined the SCCA in the late 60s and has served the SCCA across multiple disciplines and roles, including but not limited to registration, F&C, regional steward, divisional steward, executive steward, chief of specialties, and also served as a board of director at the national level. In fact, he was one of the 13 who hired me, and let me tell you that his background as a school administrator and a principal certainly got my attention. I think he used these skills with drivers too. This year's Member of Excellence asks tough but clear questions, is a great listener, and is a consistent and fair adjudicator. He can be found working diligently across all stakeholders with calm and thoughtfulness to deliver the best SCCA experience possible, and he does all of this at 87 years young. This year's award winner joins a distinguished cast of SCCA leaders like Lee Hill, George Laws, Rich Beretta, Lori Vitigliano, Ron and Monica Shaw, Sidney Davis Yeagle, Paula Hawthorne, and many other deserving SCCA stalwarts as Member of Excellence recipients. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to this year's SCCA Member of Excellence Award winner, Mr. Earl Hurlbut from the Finger Lakes region. Congratulations, Earl. Take it away.
Hello there, I'm Earl Hurlbut, and I'm very pleased to be selected for the 2023 SCCA Member of Excellence Award. This award is unique among the many that SCCA confers in that it recognizes long-term participation and performance as opposed to an annual or short-term recognition. It humbles me to see the list of members who have received this award before me. This has been quite a ride, and I will share some of that with you. My odyssey began in 1968 or 1969 with membership in the Central New York region. After a stint as regional executive there, I progressed to club racing with an A sedan. After 7 years of that, I played in the IMSA sandbox for a couple of years. And then I returned to the SCCA, doing supporting efforts in racing, some flagging, some registration, some other specialties, just to keep my contact with the SCCA. But then the racing bug bit me again, and I went back to the GT1 in the 80s. 1990 hit, and I realized I had to pay attention to my career. So I took a break from SCCA for a few years. Didn't do much SCCA stuff. After retiring as a school administrator in 2002, the addiction returned. I attended a race at Watkins Glen one weekend just to see what had changed. And I found that, to my enjoyment, nothing had changed. Same people were standing in the same places, saying the same things. So I said I would like to get back into things. Someone suggested I should be a steward. Well, what does a steward do? Well, they tried to tell me, but I accepted that. Went home, told my wife, I'm going to be a steward. That'll take care of my addiction, and I can go to races 2 or 3 times a year, Watkins Glen, and that'll handle that situation. Well, didn't quite work out that way. I earned a regional steward's license in 2003, divisional in 2004, and a national in 2005. Working 10 events a year. The number of those races increased to 13 or 14 a year, and so did the responsibilities. In 2006, I was appointed Native Spec Miata National Steward for the division, trying to convince Spec Miata drivers that they could drive in a different way, the national way. Some of it worked. Then Native Deputy Executive Steward for training. Did that for a few years. Then the Native Executive Steward for 4 or 5 years. Then in 2015, I was appointed SCCA Chief Steward for the Majors Series in Southeast Division and Northeast Division. That ended after about a year. And then I got elected to the Board of Directors, SCCA Board of Directors. I had a purpose for doing that. This club didn't have a president for a few years before that. I wanted to be part of an organization that got the right person to do the job. And we did. Since then, I've been supervising steward and training for the division. For the past 2 years, I've gone back to the runoffs as the chief of one of the specialties. None of this would have been possible without the support of many friends I've had the honor of meeting through this club. I owe so many people so much for their help this 50-year trip. I will begin my thanks to my wife, Judy, without whom this couldn't have happened. My partner in life and my partner in SCCA activities. There are so many others, but to mention a few, if I can mention a few. Costadunius for his friendship and his influence. Jack Hannafin for being a friend and helping a new guy in the beginning. Tom Hoffman for giving me a big break. And Ken Patterson for his friendship and support. This is my 87th year on this planet, and I'm constantly amazed and impressed by the friends and opportunities that the SCCA has given me. I am grateful for the opportunity to share that with you today. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm going to tell you right off who won SCCA's highest honor, the Woolf Barnato Award. He already knows he's won it, and it was announced recently at a motorsport trade show, so let's just say it up front. The 2023 honoree is Paul Fanner. This year, SCCA celebrates its 80th anniversary, and the company Fanner created has been publisher of Sports Car magazine for fully half the club's life. Ask him how he got a start in motorsports, and he'll gleefully tell you, forgery. While still in high school in 1971, he created fake credentials to a Formula One versus Formula 5000 race at the Ontario Motor Speedway. He recently put together an autobiographical video series. He titled it Forging Ahead. Well, the statute of limitations has long since expired. We can be glad Paul didn't pursue a career in crime, choosing motorsports journalism instead. His journey began as an illustrator and designer for SCCA, USAC, and Formula One teams right after graduating from high school. He became involved with Formula Ford Review before it morphed into Formula Magazine in 1973. The desire to drive it, not just draw it, got him to his first SCCA driver school in 1975, followed by a couple dozen Formula Ford races and 9 wins in SCCA, Jim Russell, and Skip Barber Race Series competition. He also raced in SCCA FF2000, Sports Renault, and even one outing in a showroom stock car where he says he sucked. Paul began working at Sports Car for 2 years in 1977 as art director and then editor when it was produced by Paul Oxman Publishing. He left Oxman to form Fanner Communications in 1979, and in 1983 won the contract to produce Sports Car, which it has done non-stop ever since. In 1992, Fanner launched Racer Magazine, Racer.com, and the Racer Studio Agency, then retitling his company in 2012 as Racer Media and Marketing Incorporated. Over those 40 plus years, Sports Car has chronicled SCCA history as it happened and the accomplishments of its members. Originally on black and white newsprint and nowadays on glossy full-color pages. The great majority of SCCA members are amateur competitors, but SCCA's story has been the dedicated work of a consummate professional and a 43-year member. My friend Paul Fanner, recipient of the 2023 Woolf Barnato Award.
Thank you, Rocky, for your kind words and for being such a great Sports Car Magazine teammate. I'll start by saying that I'm deeply honored to be recognized by my fellow SCCA members for this prestigious award. But it is much more about the team than it is about me. As a racer, Woolf Barnato won the 24 Hours of Le Mans 3 times, and no one knew better what teamwork meant. As part of the legendary Bentley Boys, he was representing a car company he helped to finance. Wikipedia tells us that Barnato's attitude to a new sport that took his interest was to immerse himself in the learning process, practicing endlessly and taking lessons only from the very best instructors he could find. I found those life instructors in the SCCA. They quite literally raised me to adulthood. Like members of the SCCA, Woolf Barnato was fueled by his enthusiasm, attracted to competition, and ultimately defined and immortalized by his embrace of like-minded people who valued teamwork. These same qualities are what the SCCA has stood for since I first discovered it as a long-haired teenager when I was dreaming of a life in racing. The SCCA helped me realize who I am and why I'm here to do what I do with my life. I met the most important mentors in my life through our wonderful club. In May 1983, newly hired SCCA President Nick Craw said yes to what would be a 40-year journey to now. Along the way, he taught me valuable lessons about business and life. The two most important were to be a good partner and a great teammate, which leads me to wanting to share this iconic award with all of the sports car editors I've served with since 1977, when I became the art director and managing editor of this great magazine. Thank you to each and every one of you who made this possible. Now let's hear from them.
Well, thank you, Paul. Friend, boss, employer, racing partner for so many years. It is difficult to think back on all the things that happened in the 1970s, but one strong memory that I have is being lured away from my happy Formula Ford racing New England region world into the wilds of Southern California to edit Sports Car Magazine. I was not prepared for the culture shock, and I certainly didn't have the skills to be an editor. So after 3 issues, I bailed on you. Happily, Lorna Fitz was on the scene shortly after I left.
I'm just honored to be here amongst all of these fantastic people who are really editors or managing editors. My time in sports car was the time when Paul Fanner and Paul Oxman gave me the opportunity to learn the publishing business. And I'm forever grateful for that. Thank you so much. And I also learned what it was like to be amongst the sports car SCCA family. And it's a huge family. It's very welcoming. I learned all about the core of the club, the basic racer, all the way up to the more professional racers. And I'm just always grateful for that. So
I've had the opportunity, privilege to be editor of Sports Car on 2 occasions, once briefly with the Paul Oxman Enterprises before we started On Track, and later with Paul Fanner's entry. And I've gained a great respect for the massive membership of the Sports Car Club of America, but the highlight of my tenure was getting to go to Road Atlanta for the runoffs, because the runoffs is the essence of the SCCA. And then I moved on and we did Racer.
Well, in '86 was my kind of second time at Sports Car. I'd worked at the national office as the national editor, working with Lorna and Steve, and I think John Zimmerman. Huge challenge, great fun. I got to harass, I think is the right word, a lot of people to get stories in and to get even basic results. One thing I always remember, I was tickled when the event calendar in the back didn't change after we'd gone to press. So that was one of the things that made me happy.
So in 1994, Paul Fanner took a chance on a kid from Texas who had submitted some race reports and photos to Sports Car and begged for a job. And happy to say that for me at least, that opportunity played out very nicely in my life. I spent 14 years working on the magazine from 99 to 2006 as editor. It's it and SCCA were a part of my life for that time and well beyond. It's been my pleasure to be a contributor to the magazine since, and be involved in several facets of SCCA as well. I want to thank, I had the opportunity to work alongside Rich McCormack, John Zimmerman, who was then editor of Racer, and Steve Nicholas, who was also in the office working on other projects. So I learned from some of the best, and was hopefully able to pass some of that along to future editor Philip Royal.
So Richard hired me, and I thought I had a lot of experience in publishing, and I thought I understood the club, but it quickly became apparent that I had no idea really what I was doing. And after, I think, a year and a half, I became the editor, and I knew a little bit more and a little bit more. And then through the next 15 to 17 years, I slowly got a handle on the club, but discovered that there's still more to be had in all of this. But the thing I enjoyed the most was the quality of the product. And always in the office, you'd push more and more for a better product, and it always came through. And we had Lawrence Foster, who kind of heads up Racer now, and he was just always pushing. Paul was always pushing, and that, I think, ultimately has changed my entire career, the outlook on life, everything. Just pushing for the extra bit, that extra second.
I grew up as an SCCA brat. My parents dragged us around all the tracks in Southern California, a few in Northern California and Arizona. Just super grateful for the opportunity to grow up in SCCA. I first met Paul Fanner at a race when I was about 13 years old. And I never imagined then that I would be the current managing editor of Sports Car magazine. So I'm so proud to be a part of the sports car team. It's just an amazing group of individuals, and my part was so small.
Wow, Paul, what a ride, what a journey. I first came out to work on sports car at your beckoning, left, was brought back in 1979, Pearl Harbor Day, 1979. I arrived here to do sports car and do a good job on sports car, I hoped and thought, in 1980 and beyond. And sadly, you had left by then, following your entrepreneurial spirit and your entrepreneurial thoughts to start your own company. Thank you, Paul, for initiating that whole experience, for bringing me into the professional world of magazine editing, and giving me the chance to learn my craft through Sports Car Magazine.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Steve, for helping me close out this amazing chapter in both of our lives. I also want to thank Jeff Swart, who I met when he was a photographer in 1977. Jeff and I later launched Racer Magazine together, with the help of Bill Sparks, who started with us working on Finish Line magazine, the Cal Club region's official publication. Also, thank you to Diane Gilliam, who worked for decades as our proofreader and managing editor. Paul Leggett, who still works with us today as our illustrator and art director, but twice served as Sports Car's art director. Ree Tucker, whose brilliant work has graced the pages of Sports Car magazine for nearly 2 decades. Ree is the longest serving art director in the history of Sports Car. Raylan Stokes, who is our advertising director and who has kept us going all these years with her enthusiasm for racing and Sports Car magazine. Rob and Chris Dyson, my partners in Racer Media Marketing. They began their lives in racing as SCCA club racers. And of course, I met my wife, Donna Chamberlain Fanner, when she was the ad director for Sports Car magazine. All of this would not have happened without the grace and support of SCCA members who encouraged all of us along the way. We're forever grateful to this club, and we look forward to what comes next. We know you've got this, because teamwork will carry you forward to the next era of communications and member engagement in our great club. Thank you, everyone.
On behalf of the SCCA Board of Directors, SCCA staff, and SCCA membership at large, I want to congratulate each of our award winners tonight. Our Hall of Fame inductees, Anatoly Arutinov, Bruce Foss, Vicki O'Connor, Terry Osment, and Fred Wacker Jr. Also want to thank and congratulate this year's Woolf Barnato Award winner, Mr. Paul Fanner, and our Member of Excellence winner, Mr. Earl Hurlbut. These individuals have contributed greatly to this club, and we stand on the foundation that they've helped build. We're blessed to have each of them as vital members of this family that we call the Sports Car Club of America. Earlier in the annual meeting and in the general session, I think we talked about our commitment to grow the SCCA by minimizing barriers to access, inviting others to partake of the SCCA buffet in the manner of their choosing, and how each of us as members play a role in creating an SCCA experience that invites others and fosters engagement. I believe how we show up makes a difference. And like these leaders we've celebrated tonight, each one of us can contribute to growing the club forward. In that spirit, I want to thank tonight's award winners. I want to thank you for your many, many contributions and for the growth you have helped the SCCA achieve. We're a better club because of folks like you, and we're beyond grateful for your dedication and your many contributions. In closing, and to each of you watching tonight, thank you for your continued support of the SCCA. Together, we can grow this club well beyond where we stand today, and I'm truly excited about the SCCA future, our SCCA future together. I look forward to seeing you at the upcoming division meetings and or competing with you in an event soon, and working with you in the very near future. Good night, God bless, Godspeed from SCCA Studio, and let's grow in 24, team. Let's do it. Good night.